I, 31F, yelled at my husband, 31M, and he told our son I'm psychotic. Last night my husband and I and our 2 kids, toddler and baby, went to the grocery store together. In the parking lot after, my husband opened the car door for toddler, told him to get himself in his car seat, and then walked away to return the shopping cart without telling me. I was busy buckling the screaming baby into her seat, so I didn't notice until I was done that toddler was sitting on the ground crying and scared in the middle of the parking lot by himself. Turns out the wind had blown the car door shut before he could get in and knocked him down. I yelled over to husband, "What are you doing? You can't leave a toddler alone in a parking lot." This isn't the first time husband has done this, and I have asked him several times make sure the kids are in a safe place. Or at least tell me he's leaving, before walking away, so I was very upset. Once husband got back in the car he was furious that I yelled. He quietly told me I was acting like a crazy person and to not yell in public because it's embarrassing. I said that if our child is in danger then I'm going to yell. Toddler asked why we were fighting and my husband said, because mommy is acting psychotic. That's when I totally lost it and started yelling at husband that it's not psychotic to care about the safety of our children, which he clearly does not, and that he can't just assume I'm responsible for both kids at all times and walk away without saying anything. He just kept quietly repeating to stop yelling in front of the kids, it's not appropriate, and things like, it's okay kids don't be scared, mommy is just a little psychotic, and, I didn't leave toddler alone, you were right there. He was so condescending and didn't care at all about the issue I was upset about. I have never been so angry in my life and I just could not get myself under control to stop yelling. When we got home he locked himself in our room while I snuggled and apologized to the kids. He came down later and said, sorry for upsetting you. He's been acting like everything is fine now, but I can't even look at him. Similar cycles keep repeating with us where we are fine for long periods and then something happens and I blow up and start yelling. I know I'm not innocent here, but there are clearly deeper issues that need communicating and I don't know how to do it right. I want to have an actual productive conversation when he gets home tonight, but what do I say? I will apologize for yelling, but I want to get to the root of the issue so it doesn't build up and explode again. Saying, sorry for upsetting you, is a cop-out. He needs to actually understand that he was wrong. Saying it that way tells me that he still thinks you're the problem. And if he is telling you that it's not okay to yell in front of the kids, he needs to stop calling you names in front of the kids. Freaking hypocrite. This is a very Reddit response. But why are you still with someone that doesn't respect you or care about the safety of your children? If this is a long-standing pattern, that speaks to something deeper than simple miscommunication. He doesn't seem to want to do better. ETA. He's also bringing your kids into the fights by addressing them directly to disparage you, and that speaks to an emotionally immature parent who's fine with using his children as leverage to win or stop a fight. Do you want them dealing with that for their whole development? Their whole lives? Okay, imagine this same situation in 10 years. Your husband turning to your preteen son and telling him, your mom is a little psychotic. Is that the kind of relationship you want to model for your children? Is that what you want to teach your children is an appropriate way to talk to their significant others? He is telling you what he's going to do if you try to leave. Paint you as crazy. He's also telling your kids this. The longer you're with him, the more damage this will do, both to you and the kids. Anybody saying you overreacted to a toddler being out of line of sight and in a parking lot obviously does not understand the adrenaline rush you get when you realize that, of course you yelled. Anybody focusing on that is being absurd. This is not a safe man. I wouldn't even push it or bring it up. I think I'd be placating him while I made plans to get a divorce and get out of there with my kids. You rightfully yelled at your husband for endangering your child. Of course you were uncontrollably angry. Your child could have gotten seriously hurt and he didn't care. The people saying you're abusive or that you shouldn't have yelled are on a different planet. If your husband doesn't want to be yelled at in public, maybe don't be so careless about a child's life. If there is ever a time to yell at your partner in public, it's this. And I reckon your anger issues are just because you have an asshat for a partner. The root of the issue is that your husband is a bad partner and a bad father. That's it. If he later said, sorry for upsetting you, then he still doesn't get it. My 30F, mother-in-law, 59F, and father-in-law, 58M, want my baby to call them names that sounds like mama and papa. About a month after my daughter was born, my mother and father-in-law, 59F and 58M, told me and my husband, 30M, that they did not wish to be called grandma, grandpa or any other grandparent-sounding names as they felt they were too young for those titles. They followed up with the names Mamu and Papu after we told them we would be called Mama and Papa. We laughed at first because we thought they were joking, but on subsequent visits they would refer to themselves as Papu and Mamu. I felt uncomfortable telling them I did not like those titles and asked my hubby to say something to his parents, but he just shrugged it off and said they'd eventually get the hint if we keep referring to them as grandma and grandpa. My baby is now almost 7 months and she is babbling mama for me and almost saying papa for my hubby, but I'm thinking it's now or never we talk to his parents about choosing different names. If my husband doesn't care enough to bring it up with his parents, then I'm worried about coming across as the bad guy if I say something now after 6 months. Any advice on how to speak to them would be most welcome. How would you speak to your in-laws about the names they've chosen for your baby to call them, if those names make you uncomfortable? Edit. They are not Greek. Some have pointed out Papu is Greek. They are American with Malaysian ancestry, and Mamu and Papu were chosen by them because they like how they sound similar to Mama and Papa, the names they use with their own kids to this day. As some have stated, I have tried to just roll with it and let it go, bigger problems to deal with, but it makes me so uncomfortable every time they visit and use those names, so I wanted advice on it. I realize it may seem trivial to some, and perhaps I am being overly sensitive. Truth is, I've been uncomfortable with them ever since I was pregnant and they told me off for exercising, yoga and walking every day because it was their grandchild and I needed to be careful. Also being scolded when they came over and thought the baby's hands were too cold, I was doing something else wrong, etc. Sometimes it just feels like they want to take over as the parents, and I realize how silly that sounds, but this is probably contributing to my discomfort with their name choices. I just wish for them to acknowledge they are not the parents. It doesn't have to be grandma and grandpa, but names that don't sound like mama and papa would make me feel more at ease. The kid will come up with names on their own. Mother-in-law wanted my son, now 25, to call her Grammy. He calls her Grams or Grandma. This is a classic new mom, first baby problem, and very much not worth devoting any of your precious time or energy to. Your child will absolutely not be confused, and is pretty likely to start calling them something silly when she does start talking. My husband's French-Canadian parents were very specific about their desired grandparent monikers when our first was born, but ended up Nini and Noodle regardless. Let all this go, save the hard lines for something more serious, like horribly old-fashioned baby safety sensibilities or allergies, and enjoy your new kiddo. Try not to worry about it too much. If you say, "Grandma is here," then your baby will think, "Grandma." If mother-in-law complains, apologize sweetly and say you keep forgetting. And even if they somehow manage to become Mamu and Papu, what's the big difference between Ma and Grandma, anyway? Just one syllable. Same for Ma and Mamu. Mamu sounds like the name for an orca. And, real talk, your kid is going to grow up and call you, bro. If my husband doesn't care enough to bring it up with his parents, then I'm worried about coming across as the bad guy. Get your husband to say the uncomfortable thing to his parents. He's old enough to stand up for himself, you, and your child. Also, just call them grandma and grandpa when talking to your baby. That will do most of the work. My mother-in-law was the same. She ended up being Nani and father-in-law was Gagi. I wasn't very fond of it, but it's better than Mamu or whatever. How about your own reinforcement? Call them Mumu and Po'opo'o. How can I, 27F, tell him, 30M, I don't want to get married anymore? We've been together almost 8 years. First couple of years I didn't care about marriage, but lately, I'll say at least the last 3 years, I made it known that's what I want. I brought up, so. When? A few times only to be met with answers akin to, we will. Someday. Our last conversation about it was somewhat forced. Before the holidays, he had to bring up that due to his shares in his tech company, his boss has told him if we ever do get married, we would need a prenup. Which I don't care about at all. I appreciate that it forced us to have this conversation finally in detail. I told him I was beginning to think we were never getting married, to which he replied he was planning to propose within the next year. I've realized after that discussion, I didn't really get excited or anything. Especially because even though I said I wanted a micro-wedding with maybe 10 people total, his people included, he said that was too much. He's a bit of a recluse. At this point, I don't even want it anymore. It would feel like a shut up ring in marriage at this point. But I don't necessarily want to break up. How can I bring this up? Just like how you said to us. Go into whatever room he's in and say, "Hey, I've thought about it, don't bother with the shut up ring, my dreams have been dashed and your stocks are safe." Then walk away. He'll ask questions if he's not clear. You'll eventually break up. This is just your first slide away. But if you'd like to continue to fool yourself into thinking that this is just a transition for you too, then just tell him that marriage is now off the table. He'll probably freak out and offer a ring, not to shut you up but to hold on to someone he cares deeply for, but that's that. There's no good way to handle this. Honesty is all you can do and it won't be great. The lack of excitement is your cue to leave. It's not what you want. The quicker you leave, and figure why you stayed so long, the quicker you will heal. Time to discover who you are, what you want, what you need from yourself. Best wishes on this journey. Don't let your boyfriend stand in the way of you finding your future husband mending heart. I think that your feelings of non-excitement are probably a sign that this relationship has run its course, which sounds about right when you started dating at the age of 19. If you don't care about marriage or kids and are fine with the relationship being a long-term partnership, you don't have to do anything, but in my humble opinion, you're probably just settling because you don't know anything else. What do you actually have in common? Do you feel loved and cared for? Or are you basically just roommates? You don't, because we all know he isn't going to. But do you really not want to, or do you not want to continue being disappointed? I'm 35F, mad that my husband, 36M, is being nice. How can I get him to see from my perspective? My husband is a nice guy, but sometimes he doesn't listen to me, and that really triggers me if he does it frequently enough. For example, he will ask if I want some oranges, I'll say no thank you. Then he'll peel some oranges for me and offer me some, and then I'll say no thank you, and he leaves the bowl of oranges there. But imagine this happens for multiple scenarios every single day. 95% of our fights is because he does not listen to me, and thinks he knows better and keeps insisting and imposing his ideas on me. Today, I was holding our baby daughter, 2 months, and eating. He told me to eat first and he will hold our daughter. I told him, I'm fine, it's finger food and I got it. I told him to eat first and then rear the toddler baby after. Well, he insisted I should eat first and told me to give him the baby. I told him again, no, I'm okay, I can hold the baby. He then came over and grabbed the baby and repeatedly said, eat. Eat first, I'll eat after. I told him explicitly, no, let go. No, I'm fine. No, don't take her. You aren't listening to me and this will lead to a fight. This is disrespectful, please stop, while maintaining my hold on our baby. He kept grabbing the baby from my arms and I finally let go because I didn't want to make our baby feel uncomfortable or worse hurt her. Like God forbid we drop her while both trying to grab her. I was so pissed off he would not listen to me again and went as far as starting a tug-of-war with our baby. He says he's always trying to just be nice and I end up snapping at him. It's also important to know what we value the most in relationship is different. He values feeling like he's cared for and loved. I value being respected. I told him by not listening to me repeatedly, multiple times a week, he's disrespecting me. So now I feel crazy. I'm mad at a man who wants to care for me, but I am an adult, and I'm sick and tired of him telling me what to do and fighting about it. He's tired of being snapped at for trying to be nice. Help? Do you refer to him as nice because you genuinely think he's being nice, or because he refers to himself as being nice so you just sort of internalized that idea? Because this guy doesn't meet my definition of nice. That behavior is not him being nice. It's his need to feel like he's nice combined with a desire for respect that manifests as a need for his suggestions to be taken as authoritative. There's no way around it but to be blunt. Make it clear that he's acting for his own sake, not yours, and that he needs to stop. Repeat every time he tries it. That's control, not niceness. It's not nice if you don't want it. He's deciding his opinion matters more than yours does. That's not nice. It's overbearing. Niece is listening to you because you're a person and what you have to say matters. This is not niceness. It's ignoring you while smiling. Take the oranges example. Do you eat the oranges he has cut up or just leave them? What does he do if you leave them? Obviously, grabbing your child when you say no is a separate example. But when he constantly asks if you want something, he does something for you. Say no once and then just say I've already answered this and ignore the situation. He feels like he knows best, and if you're then engaging, it's validating that in him. Have you tried having a discussion calmly with him when this isn't an issue? Set some boundaries. I'm concerned with him pulling the baby from your hands. That is really dangerous. Will he acknowledge how inappropriate that is for her, how risky?